Chicago Fire Season 13 finale's happiest plot sets up a devastating tragedy in Season 14. There were several gleeful moments at the end of Chicago Fire Season 13, but fans shouldn't be too quick to celebrate one triumphant revelation from the finale, thanks to what it actually means for the series' future. The Chicago Fire Season 13 finale is full of touching moments. From Herman furthering Match's career by taking a voluntary demotion to the reveal that Kid and Severide are pregnant after having lost their first adoption prospect. But these are far from the only moments in the finale certain to carry over into Chicago Fire Season 14. Among changes such as Mouch adjusting to his full-time leadership position and Kid adapting to her newly discovered pregnancy, the Chicago Fire cast will also be getting a little smaller. As of Chicago Fire Season 14, the show will be losing two of its series regulars as a result of necessary budget cuts. Ritter's departure will leave Novak once again without a roommate, an issue that was only raised and resolved toward the end of Season 13. But Novak's loss won't be nearly as tragic as the fate set up for her Ambo 61 partner. When looking at the most important episodes in Chicago Fire's timeline, it feels almost immediately apparent that the relationship between Sam Carver and Violet McCamey has been one of the most prominent storylines in Season 13 next to the death of Monica Pascal. Violet and Carver struggled to get on less awkward footing after Tori moved back to Texas, and it seemed clear that the tension between them hinted at a much steamier endgame than mere friendship. Their storyline finally paid off in the Chicago Fire Season 13 finale with a kiss and a mutual confession of love. It was long overdue, and it would have happened much earlier if not for Carver's drinking problem. That one issue caused so many problems between them, from Violet being attacked by Carver's possessive recovery buddy to him spending several episodes in treatment. It now finally feels as if Sam and Violet are able to find each other on nearly equal footing. Unfortunately, it couldn't have happened at a worse possible time. For the most part, all One Chicago leads are returning for the 2025 to 2026 season. However, Jake Lockett's Sam Carver joins Daniel Keary's Darren Ritter as one of two characters leaving in Chicago Fire Season 14. What's unclear is what his departure will look like now that he's embraced his love for Violet. Neither Carver nor Ritter formally departs the story by the end of the Season 13 finale, leaving it uncertain as to how the series will address either one of their exits. Sam Carver's Chicago Fire exit, however, is strongly suggested throughout the finale. Firehouse 51 hasn't exactly been a haven for Carver recently, and Sam decides in the finale that he needs to make a fresh start for himself by transferring to Denver. It's only late in the episode, after Carver reads the letter Violet wrote him while he was in treatment, that he seems to decide he'd rather stay in the Windy City with McCamey. This would usually be a welcome development had Jake Lockett's exit as a series regular not been confirmed weeks before the finale aired. It would be a horrible blow to Violet's storyline if she were to finally get with Carver, only to watch him ultimately choose Denver over her anyway. It would mean that she'd spent the better part of a day pouring her heart into a letter that ultimately failed to sway his emotions in a truly meaningful way. But hopeful fans shouldn't expect that Carver's departure announcement was a mere tactic to keep his love confession a surprise. There are plenty of reasons to suspect that this is truly the end of the road for Sam and Violet's love story. It would be great to see McCamey and Carver embrace their relationship for the long haul, but it's difficult to do that given the circumstance. There's a common storytelling problem referred to as shipping death that asks how to keep relationships interesting, particularly when there's no remaining dramatic tension derived from wondering when they'll finally get together. Sadly, Sam and Violet are prime targets for this sort of issue. Next to Mouch and Trudy, who aren't seen together frequently, The most stable Chicago Fire couple is Kid and Severide. They weren't always on solid ground, but their story since the wedding has largely concerned how to move forward with other major life decisions, such as parenthood. Watching Carver and Mikami follow in the same footsteps wouldn't feel particularly fresh, meaning the most interesting part of their love story ended the moment they expressed their affections out loud. With that arc concluded and Carver's recovery mostly under control, there are few places to take his wind up ranking among one Chicago's saddest character exits, simply because it replaces the story of him choosing to stay with a far more tragic twist that he and Violet wind up single anyway. It's possible that Carver simply quits the 51 while staying in Chicago to continue his relationship with Violet off-screen, but a lack of information regarding whether he might continue in a recurring role makes this difficult to predict. But if he doesn't appear in Chicago Fire Season 14 at all, then even a happy ending like this would feel woefully underwhelming. The best-case scenario would be for Carver to at least appear on-screen to establish his exit formally. At that point, however, anything short of a goodbye party would likely fall under tragedy. The pair has barely spent any good time together on-screen. Whether he fails to survive a call or actively chooses to leave Violet after sharing that kiss, Chicago Fire has a gargantuan task ahead if seeking to write off Carver in a satisfying manner. To play it safe, fans may want to prepare to see Violet in much lower spirits than Season 13 left her. The season finale of Chicago Fire opened with something we hadn't felt in a long time: pure happiness. The episode seemed to be tying up storylines with a perfect bow. There were promises made, relationships blossomed, and a deep feeling of peace fell over Firehouse 51. Naturally, this kind of happiness is a dramatic red flag. Whenever a show lets its guard down, tragedy isn't far away. And Chicago Fire is a master at delivering a gut-wrenching twist just when we least expect it. From the moment the episode opened, with the team smiling, laughing, and making plans for a future outside their daily battles, fans felt a nervous knot form in their stomachs. The happiness seemed too perfect, almost cinematic. It was the kind of peace that comes just before a hurricane, a dramatic irony that viewers have come to associate with the show's greatest, most painful upheavals. The happy plot that started it all. The episode's first act seemed designed to celebrate unity and renewal. The center of this happiness was, without a doubt, Kelly Severide and Stella Kidd, whose marriage plans were falling into place. After years of struggles, doubts, and nearly losing each other, the two were at last poised to start a future together. There were touching scenes of the couple choosing their first home, making plans to buy furniture, and even talking about having children. A literal new life blooming from years of chaos. Meanwhile, Joe Cruz and Chloe were experiencing their own moment of pure happiness. The couple, already proud parents, were expecting another baby, a blessing in a department that often bears the brunt of tragedy. Cruz was elated, smiling more than we'd seen him in years. His protective, loving side was on full display as he insisted on installing a state-of-the-art alarm system in their home and buying matching ones for all his friends at 51. It seemed the future was nothing but a clear road forward. The episode was filled with small, intimate scenes. Mouch mentoring young recruits, Herman making plans to celebrate his retirement, and Brett and Casey reconnecting and closing chapters of their past. There were moments of pure happiness, pure peace, a calm before the dramatic upheaval. The twisting point, why it all fell apart. But this happiness was a clever piece of dramatic irony. The writers were weaving a rich, deceptive context, letting the viewers become comfortable, letting their guard down, only to destroy it in the episode's final minutes. The turning point came during what seemed a routine call. Truck 81 responded to reports of a massive warehouse fire on the south side. It was a scenario they dealt with countless times, and there were reports of civilians trapped on upper floors. The team rushed into the burning structure without a second thought. This was their mission, their purpose. But something was different this time. The fire was spreading faster than expected, and a hidden cache of chemicals, something the department hadn't been made aware of, was ignited by the growing blaze. An enormous explosion followed, tearing through the upper floors and sending shockwaves through the entire neighborhood.